right now.
All right, now down to 3.
Welcome to the Nerd Social. I'm Nathan.
I'm Jhon.
And I'm Colin.
Hey everyone who's joining us in the live stream. We are going to talk about the latest episode, or the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. As always, we're going to go through our spoiler-free thoughts about the episode, and then we are going to fully spoil the episode and talk about everything that we think about the episode. So, Jhon, do you want to open it up with what you thought?
Sure. Great opening, lots of action, lots of great special effects and visual effects in there. I hope they didn't blow their whole budget just on that scene alone. But it was thrilling. It was very nice. It was almost like watching a regular Marvel movie. So clearly they've taken that approach of same effects, budget, action, all of it into what they usually do for their Marvel big budget movies into this series. We got a little bit of some familiar faces that showed up in the episode, like Rhodey. We got to see what Bucky's up to, what Sam's up to, and also a little bit of backstory on Sam as he goes to see his family. So it's a good start to it. Left me wanting more, especially the way he ended it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, it's just a lot of...
Go ahead.
Okay. For me, it was pretty much very similar to what you said, Jhon. But it's very actually interesting is that it did remind me a lot of Winter Soldier. A lot of that, especially the music, especially the stylized action, and also there was a character that came back from Winter Soldier that was there as well. Yes. So definitely all those vibes, all that type of. So if you liked Winter Soldier, this was the episode for you. There was a lot of that happening. That intrigue, like I said last week, about political intrigue and some things that are mysterious that are going on. Much different tone from WandaVision. So WandaVision was kind of fluffy and airy. This is more like deadly serious and like action oriented. So definitely a much different tone than what you've experienced if you've been watching WandaVision the last 2 months or so.
Yeah, I enjoyed the episode too. It was a good opening to the series. Of course, it ended in an abrupt way because they're telling serialized storytelling here. Without getting into spoilers, the person from Winter Soldier was a nice little addition in the first episode. Yeah. Another Avenger showing up was a nice little addition. But mostly what I liked about it was, the specific focus on Sam and Bucky post re-blippening, or I don't know what the term is, after they came back from the blip. So them trying to put their lives back together. Sam down in New Orleans with his people, and Bucky trying to recover. Just before we saw him, and we talked about this in our preview, the last time we saw him just before Endgame or Infinity War, he was recovering in Wakanda. So from 90 years of psychological issues. So they delve into some of that, and it's good that they spend time with actually establishing who these people are in this episode. So I definitely like that. So yeah. Before we so we have been talking for a little while. I think we all like the episode. I want to start getting into spoilers because there's lots to talk about here. So if you haven't seen the episode, we all like the episode. Go see the episode, because right now we're going to start spoiling the episode. This is your last spoiler alert. All right. So what do you guys want to get into in this episode specifically?
We can get started with the opening scene. Again, I thought it was very thrilling. Mm-hmm. And then we saw the character, how do you say his name? Batroc or Batroc?
The leaper.
Batroc, yeah.
Yeah. So he's supposed, we saw him, as you said, Colin, in Winter Soldier. He and Captain America went toe-to-toe for a little bit. Clearly, he's a skilled fighter.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to see him back. Oh, yeah, not only is it a callback to Winter Soldier, but that guy was a badass fighter. He would really give Sam some trouble if they went head-to-head. And so I think they're definitely setting him up to obviously come back and be a thorn in his side. So looking forward to more action from him.
Yeah, the actor who plays him was on the internet this week saying that this Falcon and the Winter Soldier
go to sleep. Self-maintenance
is going to be better than WandaVision, probably because self-interested, of course, for him to say
that. It's St. Pierre, right?
Yeah,
from
George
MMA fame.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I think, definitely, like I said from the beginning, probably attest to what George St. Pierre was saying was, it really is a contrast to what you experienced in WandaVision. WandaVision was very, again, like I said at the beginning before the spoiler, fluffy and kind of family oriented, a lot of lovey-dovey stuff. Well, this is kind of like more, again, stylized action. I mean, the whole opening sequence really reminded me of Winter Soldier at the beginning. It was basically just replace Falcon, replace Cap with Falcon. Falcon jumping off the plane and going, like, basically being a badass and stuff like that. So and there's a lot of that going on. And again, it really depends on the audience as well. I mean, for us, it's okay because we're all, like, all of us, and probably in the people that are viewing us are all Marvel fans. But for those that are kind of like not hardcore Marvel fans, that might be taken aback by the fact that there is a very, very very deep shift in tone between the two shows. And so for me, the whole dynamic of the episode was about Sam for the most part. And I think that I personally had a lot of issue, and I can understand why, with Sam, like, not taking the shield and feeling all of that pressure. I mean, just from a perspective of a person that's taking up a mantle, as such a legendary mantle as Steve Rogers, and, like, just having all that weight and burden all over you. And it's just, it is hard because you're thrust into some sort of, and it's true for anybody that's in the real world. If you're thrust into a leadership position and you're trying to eat, whether it's in, like, sports, entertainment, or any other type of medium, you could probably feel that pressure of replacing or taking over for someone that has done something that was so iconic. So in that regard, it does kind of give me some self-examination as well about, like, when people kind of thrust leadership kind of roles or some sort of you're becoming the head of some organization, and then you're like, oh, what am I going to do? And so I think that Sam, like, we get to see that type of vulnerability in Sam, which is very interesting.
Yeah. So a couple of things you were saying there. I think I agree. If Marvel picked up any fans because of WandaVision, because of the weirdness, this is definitely a total shift. If they weren't Marvel fans before, and they're expecting, like, weird mysteries, they're probably not going to find it in this show. I mean, we don't know who the Flag Smashers are, but I don't think that's going to be, like, a deep in, like, I don't know, what could it be sort of thing. I mean, I think we'll eventually find out maybe in the second or third episode who they are, who the leaders are, or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely a different tonal change. Also, as you were saying, Colin, you think from Sam's perspective, I think when Rhodey was there at the event, he was obviously disappointed that Sam didn't take up the mantle. And as audience member, you're disappointed that Sam didn't take up the mantle. But
right.
In his world, Captain America existed before he was born. He probably grew up hearing about Captain America. I mean, if you remember, Coulson had cards, Captain America cards. So it's a lot to take on, even though he knew Steve. So I could understand his hesitation. But yeah, it was a little disappointing for them to start the show that way, and then end the episode with him immediately seeing that it was a mistake because of course they weren't going to honor Steve's memory. Of course they were going to hand it over to the nearest white guy that they can control. So
I will address that
Yeah.
later on.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
that's a good introduction there.
You're both right in that if I were to put myself in his shoes, in Sam's shoes, just the weight of it all, I can definitely see that. But I didn't get the vibes I got from him not wanting to do it. To me, it seemed to have come from more of a place of respect and grieving. Right? He lost his very good friend, someone he really looked up to, and at the same time very loyal to as well. And I think that I saw that as him still being loyal to Steve, that there will never be another Captain America. It doesn't feel like it's me. It feels like it's someone else, like he was saying. And so, if anything, just by him saying that, and it repeats itself again as he said those lines with Steve in Endgame, it made it seem like he's still trying to come to grips with the fact that, you know what, maybe this thing should sit in a museum. And that's what he was expecting. And then somebody didn't keep their word.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there are multiple layers there. Of course, he knew Steve personally and definitely respected Steve and felt that he wore that title with honor, right? So he didn't want to. He doesn't want to disrespect his legacy. But yeah, I So it's funny. He's written in a very savvy way when he's addressing when he's going to the bank, because he's like, I'm not playing with these white people. I know I got to be there on time. You're either late or you're early, right? He says that, but he's also seems to be like naive in thinking that they were ever going to just leave that in.
Very.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, he did just come back from the blip, right?
Yeah.
So. Completely naive to the fact. I thought that was a nice twist, by the way, since we're talking about the banking scene, where the guy, it seemed like it definitely had the racial undertones of why he might be denying them. Or I know I was expecting a denial, rejection, and sure enough it came. But the reasoning he gave, I'll be honest, it also made sense too. In that, hey, all these people basically came back at once. They're trying to get reestablished. They're all trying to get loans, and they have like no credit history whatsoever to prove. So it threw all the credit system out of whack, right?
Yeah,
and
you would think that helping to save the world would buy you a little credit. I don't know with some institution.
Did Tony not leave any money for his buddies? What the hell happened?
Yeah, that
I mean, yeah,
that is weird.
It kind of reminded me of this like an old Visa commercial where it was like a Visa check card commercial, and these famous people would be like, "Oh, can I like write a check?" And like there's tons of people that did this commercial, and then the kicker was that the service person was saying, "Can I have some ID?" And then they were like, "I don't have any ID," but you know me already though. And it kind of reminded me of that scene where it's like, "You're an Avenger. You're really awesome." And then it's like, "Oh no, but you're denied because you don't have credit," and things like that. So it's like reminded me of that whole. It's kind of played in some ways play for laughs, but then I agree, John. There was some type of. I was expecting the racial undertones, but. Again, it's very weird because you could kind of weasel your way into that type of excuse and then still be like racially insensitive at times.
He's
but
right,
it's weird.
I mean, so like you can read racial. I mean, so like Sam wasn't around for 5 years, but his sister was. She was there. They denied her. They denied her the loan too before Sam showed up. Sam thought he was going to be able to show up with his Avenger cred and swing something, and doesn't count for anything. You can in a couple of dollars will buy him a cup of coffee. Apparently, he can't really do anything. I mean, he says that I think in that scene he was specifically saying there's no real salary. You think people are you get goodwill from people. Like in situations like this. No goodwill.
Yeah. I mean, if we were to put our realism hats on here and try to apply it to a show like this, I mean, I already said something about Tony. I mean, you would think he would leave something. But also the U.S. government, come on, or the world governments in some way, like you said. How else do you show thanks for something like that?
I mean,
or did they get thrown out of whack too because billions of people have returned in a snap?
So, like, okay, maybe Tony would leave money, right? But think about the events of Endgame, right? So in his world, Sam and everyone else is gone. He has a daughter. Setting up trusts or money for people who might come back isn't something that he probably had the time to do the paperwork for as he was coming up with how to figure out time travel, right? So he would have so they came to him and was like, oh, let's fix this with time travel, and he's like, and he's thinking about time travel. He would have had to do paperwork. And he's like, oh wait, if this actually works, I should probably fund these. Also, he probably wasn't expecting to die. So there's all kinds of
exactly.
there's all kinds of things there, right? Because
a lot of paperwork.
There's all kinds of reasons why Tony probably didn't leave money.
I mean, Michael Jordan, that's a perfect opportunity for an endorsement deal for Air Jordans with him, right? Come on. Something like that. Right? He could start hawking some Air Jordans.
Honestly, Falcon should take a note out of the Booster Gold page of superheroing. He should definitely endorse it, create endorsement deals, because Booster Gold, he knows how to sell himself.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see that. I don't know.
Maybe we'll see that.
Maybe that's why they're trying to establish a little bit of the money issues that the families currently having.
So I think in Marvel, the only people that I can think of that speak about money issues all the time is either Peter Parker or
Scott Lang.
Scott Lang, does he have money issues a lot?
Yeah, he worked at that Baskin Robbins.
Oh no, I meant in the actual comics. So Peter Parker and not Iron Fist, the Luke Cage. So he was like Luke Cage and Iron Fist actually were heroes for hire. So Luke Cage's catchphrase was like, "Where's my money, honey?" Because like he was. So they were all about their money, and they had money issues, but that they actually explain how they got paid in that show because they were heroes for hires. But yeah, they don't usually, they kind of gloss over that with a lot of these heroes. So,
definitely. I mean, they did kind of allude to it in Ultron, that kind of throwaway line where he said, "If I can afford a place in Brooklyn," it's like, oh yeah, you can really like. How does Captain America get a bank account, and how does he look for an apartment in Brooklyn? It's interesting.
Yeah, there's the added. If we talk about why Tony didn't set things up, there's the added thing of before Infinity War, Cap, Bucky, Sam were on the run, and also Natasha were on the run. So if they were on the payroll before, they definitely weren't on the payroll when they were running around the globe, skirting the Sokovia Accords. So
right, exactly.
Because that Tony was going to be in the letter, definitely in keeping up with the Sokovia Accords to the letter, so he could continue his activities, right? Because
so when they got pardons, then it's Pepper. Then we have to blame Pepper. Pepper's the one who's in charge of the estate.
Yeah, Pepper should. Yeah, so Pepper. Blame it all on Pepper.
Pepper.
She gave that money to Spider-Man from far home. You probably have to blame it. Maybe happy to.
Giving her the benefit of the doubt and some slack, she's probably mourning Tony, right? This show happens in April. Far From Home happens in July of the same year.
Yeah.
So maybe she got her stuff together around that time. And she wrote the check.
She started a Netflix show selling candles that smell the scent of her privates.
Oh, no.
She's got to make money too, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Yeah. So so the other part of this, of course, is Bucky, right? So Bucky is dealing with his psychological issues, and I appreciated his sessions, and I guess that's the woman who showed up in the clips. So I guess they're going to do some couples therapy at some point. He's going to drag Sam into his therapy sessions in a later episode, because we saw them having a staring contest in one of the clips. So that should be interesting. And also, I heard one of the clips when I was putting together one of our our preview thing, one of it, she asked him directly, "What is your problem with Sam? Why do you dislike Sam?" So there's definitely going to be some couples therapy with them. Should be some interesting scenes. I hope they actually. I mean, they took it seriously in this episode. I hope they mostly keep it serious, because it is a serious issue. He's dealing with real trauma, and he's trying to make amends. You see him following around the gentleman. I think he's Japanese, and his son, who he's mourning because he murdered him when he was a Winter Soldier. It looks like it was like the 90s or so that he did that. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was definitely a very, very interesting plot to the story of his trauma, and I just feel as though there's definitely a lot there to unpack, and it was kind of like when Civil War, it was his interaction with Sam was definitely played for laughs. But I'll be interested to see what kind of deeper problem was it. I am probably not certain whether or not he felt traumatized because he put up his seat. I doubt that's the case. But I mean, definitely to see what is the dynamic between the two, and why are they kind of like at odds with each other? Is it because of the fact that he Bucky kind of deferred the shield to Sam, and is it that, or is it just because of this one guy, Steve Rogers, who's basically like I mentioned last week, in the middle of their romances between the two. It's kind of like this kind of like love triangle between those three guys, actually, for Cap's affection in some ways.
Yeah, Cap was probably the glue in some way, despite the many frictions they had with each other. But I think they showed in previous movies that when they did get together without Cap in the picture, they definitely had more friction, right? The banter that was going on, it was fun. They're taking shots at each other, jabs at each other, and so forth. And now that Cap is out of the picture, there's probably going to be a free for all now, right? Mm-hmm. On each other. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Bucky's story in this I found very fascinating. It definitely drew me in. It was hilarious that he was just basically lying to a shrink the whole time. Talking about what was it, the three rules, right?
Yeah.
That was hilarious, right? But at the same time, he was kind of following it along. He's trying to cross off and make amends as he's going through his process of addressing all his guilt, right, of all the things that he's done, whether he had control over them or not. Clearly, he did not. And then that reveal of that old man, that old Asian man, and the trauma he's going through of losing his own son, that hit me. I did not expect that at all. Mm. And that reveal was like, wow. Okay, so they're going there. They're really trying to address what the heck he did and not shying away from any of this stuff. And he's dealing with the consequences. And in this case, he clearly has his demons to face with what he's done in the past.
Yeah, mm-hmm. I mean they're definitely leaning into the fact that he's a tragic figure. It's interesting that they parallel the fact that he has his own little booklet, just like Steve had his little booklet, right? But Steve, because he was frozen for those 90 years, his little booklet gets to be things that he gets to catch up on, pop culture stuff. His has to be all the people he killed and they make amends for. So it's completely different little booklets that they have there that they have to cross things out on. And what I also found interesting in this episode was, if you go back to Winter Soldier and you go back to Civil War, I always got this sense that Sam disliked Bucky more because he was just an annoyance. And the reason that people were shooting at them was because Steve was so dedicated to Bucky. He even said in the airport scene when Spider-Man was beating them up, and Sam finally pulled him away with Red Wing. He was like, "I hate you," because Bucky was like, "Couldn't you have done that earlier?" He was like, "I hate you." So I always thought he disliked him more. But in this episode, it's shown that Sam has been texting Bucky and he's been ignoring him. He's the only one who's been texting him. He's the only person from his, I guess, new life who he has, because she said that he has less than 10 contacts in his phone. So
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably it, right? Would you just say? Yeah.
But also, it might be just like, he's definitely just trying to tease him and stuff like that. But I think that you're right. It's more of a fact that he might just see him as a friend, and also the fact that, I think that at the end of Endgame, where Bucky was basically realizing that, hey, the shield is yours, go for it, But whether or not Bucky was able to accept that, I'm not sure. But at least that there is this type of, there's some deep down inside there is some type of respect for each other, at least. But again, I think they have to go through this whole like therapy to kind of hash out all the other things, especially the love triangle part of it, and then not only that, but all the other deeper personal traumas that Bucky has to go through to kind of be able to say, hey, you're a cool guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't know that Bucky is not okay with Sam having the shield. I think his nod at the end of Endgame was genuine, because if Sam doesn't think he's worthy of the shield, Bucky definitely doesn't think he's worthy of the shield. He's known Steve longer. He knows what kind of guy he was. And he also was very guilty about what he did for the last 90 years. He's as he said, he had his only peace when he was in Wakanda, and it was basically battle to battle or for the last 90 years. And killing people who maybe some of them deserved it, but obviously a lot of them didn't, because he was working for a terrorist organization that was trying to guide political events by killing off people who would oppose them. So most of those people probably did not deserve to die. So he has to reckon with that. So I don't think he feels that he's worthy of that shield. I don't think he feels any envy or any kind of animus towards Sam because of the shield. Mm-hmm. I think Sam might have been contacting him because, like we said earlier, he feels some sort of way, and he was trying to sort through his feelings with Bucky, because he was the only other person that was connected to Steve like he was, and then he's not answering his text. That's how I read that.
That's probably going to be the source of their tensions when they do finally come face to face in a later episode. Hopefully, it's next episode. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
And as for Sam, his story going back to Louisiana, I couldn't help but think of Forrest Gump. I really couldn't. Bubba and the shrimp boat. I said, please don't tell me that's a shrimp boat, right?
Yeah.
And but so it was nice to see his family.
Yeah.
His sister, I'm going to see if I can pronounce her name, Adepera Oduye, right? And I remember her from 12 Years a Slave. And she, plays off of him. They clearly seem like brother or sister the way they play. Him being just hard-headed, and she's trying to convince him, look, I already tried all this while you were gone, stop wasting my time with this stuff. So clearly a sibling rivalry, sibling banter there that was quickly established. And where they go from here, I'm not sure. He seems hell-bent on keeping that boat, and why, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean,
it's more of a parent's legacy, I think.
Right, and as she says, she's had time to adjust to it, right? We just now came out of a show when we were talking about grief, right? She grieved the boat already. She grieved the house already. Sam, this is happening to him right now. So right now he's in denial phase, right? So they might lose the boat, but he's not there yet. She was there, and she had to deal with it alone, and she's gotten through. She's gotten through all the stages of grief that's associated with that boat. I don't think she loves it any less than he does, but she's been able to grieve it. So,
That's a good point.
Yeah. The other thing we were talking about before the live stream, Sam's assist on the ground in the in his in the opening scene.
Yep.
Was Joaquin Torres, I think the character's name is. I forget.
Or Danny Ramirez.
Danny
played by
Ramirez,
Danny
yeah.
Ramirez. Uh-huh.
So Joaquin Torres in the comics is the guy who takes over the Falcon mantle when Sam takes over this Captain America mantle. So he's the next Falcon. So that's who that person is. I don't know if I don't know if they're going to do that, but that's who that character is in Marvel Comics.
I think they are, with all the talks of new superheroes entering into the MCU in the near future.
He was very interested in his suit as well when he was trying to fix it at the
yeah. So they're already trying to establish that. First of all, he hasn't, like you said, he has an interest, and he also seems to have the moxie or the fearlessness to go right into dangerous situations or put himself in that. And just the funny banter, the camaraderie already quickly established as he was playing the ground support role, and also in his conversations with Sam, it just seemed like they're trying to establish that, hey, this is a pretty cool guy. Pretty cool guy. Watch out for this guy, right?
Yeah, and I think that they wouldn't be so intentional with his name, or they wouldn't give him as much screen time if they're not going to do something with him.
I think he'll be a secondary character throughout the entire series. I don't know if they're going to make him the next Falcon. We'll see if they'll make him the next Falcon. That'll
maybe towards the end. You never know. Towards the end of it, they'll just say, "Hey, he becomes the next guy."
So do you think Sam has the shield at the end of the series? He's definitely the next Captain America.
I think that he would. I think that they're able to play through the issues, and then by that time, I think he will definitely be more confident. And especially the fact that it's been co-opted by U.S. agent. I mean, he must have felt really uneasy about that and angry that, hey, I kind of basically said I'm going to defer and I'm going to put the shield in the museum, and then all of a sudden he sees it on TV that some guy just kind of co-opted, kind of not even know where that came from, and who is this guy that co-opted the whole image of Captain America? So he must be all levels of angry at this moment because of that.
Well, it's Kurt Russell's son, right? I saw a meme today where they took was it the guy from Up and put Captain America's helmet? It looked just like
he has a very pronounced chin.
Nose and his mouth is kind of sunken in. When you see his real face, by the way, with the mask off, he does. You see features of Kurt Russell in his face. So I thought that was funny, but. Again, that's kind of cool too, by the way. Kurt Russell already being in the MCU from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and now his son being in the show. So that's I'm sure Sam feels betrayed. That shield should have been in a museum, and instead he's now seen that he's given to somebody else. So
yeah, I mean, but we've seen in trailers that he's practicing with it. So. Unless that's a flashback, he gets a hold of it at some point, and there's a whole conversation in one of the trailers where Sam and Bucky are talking about the shield. So I doubt he'll have it in the next episode, unless that football scene where U.S. agent is running onto the field, and again. For people watching the live stream, we're saying U.S. agent. Who knows what they'll actually call him? They might call him just Captain America again, because in this episode they said your new Captain America. But U.S. agent was the character's name in the comics, and then he took over the mantle of Captain America for a little while. Who knows what they'll call him in this show? But it should be an interesting conflict, because I don't remember. I don't think he had any superpowers. Now that I think about it.
Yeah, so there's been also a lot of speculation online about how this would be reintroduced. Like Serum is introduced again, like the enhanced individual that was beating up Torres. Is that an enhanced individual? So there's all these type of seeds that are being planted that might come back to in the forefront. and who's going to be behind the scenes of that. So
Yeah,
that's really interesting.
in the comics, people are always trying to recreate Steve's super soldier serum, and they're always getting it a little bit wrong. I think, if I remember correctly, it might have been how Bruce got the way that he got,
yes,
how
yes,
he turned out the way that he did, how
Yep.
he turned out to be the Incredible Hulk. And we also saw in Civil War that Hydra was trying to recreate the serum. That's why had the Winter Soldier go after Howard Stark and kill Howard Stark and his wife. They used that serum to make super soldiers, but they didn't have the stability of Cap. So no one has ever been able to recreate the serum exactly the way it was done in the 40s in the comics or in the MCU. So they'll see if they'll touch on that in this show. It should be interesting if they do, because they definitely do have that guy who beat up Torres. Definitely seem to have enhanced strength.
You wonder if the new Captain America has the same thing too. So you just wonder that too, because he's going to be the new Captain America. He has to have something, right?
Maybe. Well,
so we've got several shows now, all superhero related, that have some sort of super serum. It sounds like, with Compound V and X Kryptonite and all that going around. Sometimes I wonder if they're swapping the writers in the writers' rooms.
I had to look up. I mean, we're for. Jhon is talking about Superman and Lois and Superman and Lois,
Yep.
the show.
Superman and
So
Lois.
they introduced this thing that a couple of days ago, X Kryptonite, which I had to look up. It's apparently gives human beings superpowers like Kryptonians. So yeah, it's the same. It's the same sort of plot point over and over again.
Correct, and that was also used previously in the early 2000s with Smallville, right? With the they called it, effects from the meteor rock and stuff like that, and then you got these villains of the week that would pop up because of that, and we are obviously it's a huge plot point in the show called The Boys about Compound V and such, and so seems to be